In the history of electronic music, you've got your big, famous stories, and then you have the whispers, the legends that only a few people know. Today, we're diving into one of those whispers. A story about a synth that barely existed, a team of absolute geniuses, and their mission to save a piece of technology they believed in from just vanishing. Let's peel back the curtain on this incredible forgotten story.
And that question, right there, is at the absolute heart of this whole thing. We like to think the best tech just wins, right? That the most advanced, most powerful idea will naturally come out on top. But the real world, it doesn't work that way. The history of tech is just full of brilliant ideas that were maybe too early, too complex, or just out of step with the times. And there's no better example of this than a little company called Muellogix. So, Muellogix. I'm guessing that name doesn't ring a bell. And honestly, that's kind of the point. Back in the 80s, during this massive digital synth boom, an era totally dominated by giants like Yamaha, Muellogix was this tiny, almost invisible blip on the radar. But what they were doing was so important. They were writing the final chapter for a truly legendary piece of tech. Yeah, see, Muellogix wasn't just some random startup messing around in a garage. No way. They were the direct inheritors of a technological legacy that started at Bell Labs, one of the most famous and important research labs in history. They were basically the keepers of the flame for this revolutionary way of making sound that was light years ahead of its time. So to really get what Muellogix was trying so desperately to save, we've got to rewind a little bit and see where this whole story started. Okay, so here's the whirlwind tour. It all kicks off in the 70s at Bell Labs with this absolute beast called the Alice machine, a digital synth that could do things in real time that nothing else could touch. Then, a company called Digital Keyboards, or DK, makes a commercial version called the Synergy. Awesome, right? But then, 1983, the Yamaha DX7 drops, and it changes everything. It was cheap, it was powerful, and it took over the world. By 85, Digital Keyboards was toast. And right there, in the ashes of that company, a few of its most passionate engineers decide, no, we're not letting this die, and they form Muellogix. And the tech they were fighting for was just different. Most synths work by starting with a rich sound and then carving parts away, like a sculptor. The Synergy, though, used additive synthesis. It's more like painting with sound. You start with a blank canvas and add individual, pure tones, harmonics, one by one, to build your sound from the ground up. This gave it this incredible crystal clear quality and let it create these evolving textures that no other machine could even dream of. So I want you to just picture it for a second. The company you've poured your life into, Digital Keyboards, has just gone belly up. The amazing technology you know inside and out is about to be sold for scrap. What do? Do you just walk away and get another job? Or do you risk everything you have to keep it alive? For these three guys, it wasn't even a choice. This wasn't some new business opportunity, it was a rescue mission. They knew the Synergy's potential better than anyone on the planet, and they just couldn't stand by and watch it disappear. So they founded Muellogix, not to get rich, but to be the guardians of this incredible digital legacy. And who were these engineers, these heroes of our story? Well, at the center of it all was Mercer's Stony Stockell. He was the chief designer, the guy who just got the soul of this machine. Then you had Jim Wright, the software genius who could teach this old dog new tricks, like MIDI. And rounding out the team was Jerry Plashinsky, the hardware wizard who could actually build the things they dreamed up. This wasn't a big corporation. This was a small, focused team of absolute experts on a mission. Now, with hardly any money and a limited pile of leftover parts from their old company, this tiny team knew they couldn't take on the world. They weren't trying to build a synth for everyone. Nope. Instead, they focused all their energy on creating one perfect machine for one very specific and very demanding artist. And that artist was the one and only Wendy Carlos, an absolute legend and pioneer of electronic music. And this quote, it just says everything. She saw the pure genius in what Stony Stockell could do. This wasn't some simple transaction, this was a deep creative partnership. Carlos had these incredible musical ideas in her head that no instrument on earth could create, and Stony was the one person who could bend the laws of hardware and software to make them real. And the result of that partnership was this, the Muellogix Slave 32. The concept was just brilliant. You take the incredible sound engine from the Synergy, you ditch the big clunky keyboard, you stick it in a sleek little rack box, and you give it MIDI. It was designed from the ground up to be the ultimate sonic weapon for a serious composer's studio.
So,
How many of these amazing machines actually made it out into the world? Thousands? Hundreds? Not even close. The best guess we have is about 25. No, not 25,000. 25. That's it. That's not just rare. That's a phantom. It's one of the rarest electronic instruments ever made.
And Wendy Carlos didn't just have one, she had 3 of these things. She worked side by side with Stony Stockell, creating custom software so she could explore microtuning, which is, using musical notes that exist between the standard keys on a piano. Her mind-blowing 1986 album, Beauty and the Beast, is basically a love letter to the Slave 32. At a time when everyone was going crazy for samplers, she was out there championing true synthesis, creating new sound, not just playing back recordings. So you've got this technically incredible machine. You've got one of the world's greatest electronic musicians singing its praises. Sounds like a winning formula, doesn't it? Well, the thing is, Muellogix and its tiny team were sailing straight into a hurricane of market forces they just couldn't fight.
I mean, just look at this comparison. It's night and day. You've got the Slave 32, it's expensive, it's boutique, and you literally needed a whole separate computer just to program it. And then you have the Yamaha DX7. It's affordable, it sounds great right out of the box, and they sold them by the truckload. It was like Muellogix was trying to sell a handcrafted Formula One car to people who just needed a Toyota Camry. And it was coming at them from every direction. You had samplers making it super easy to get realistic sounds. You had the new workstations like the Korg M1 that were basically an entire studio in one keyboard. And maybe the biggest problem? Muellogix was building these things with a limited supply of custom chips from the old company. They had a ticking clock. Once those chips ran out, that was it. Game over. By 1989, the fight was done. So the company folded. The product is basically a museum piece. Was it all a failure? Absolutely not. Not even close. To really get what these guys accomplished, you have to stop looking at sales numbers and start looking at the legacy of the engineers themselves. What Stony Stockell, Jim Wright, and Jerry Plashinsky did was so much more than just build a synth. They built a bridge. They took this one-of-a-kind technology from Bell Labs, which was right on the brink of being lost forever, and they carried it safely into the modern era of MIDI studios. They made sure it survived. So when you look at what they really left behind, it's incredible. They saved a genius piece of engineering from being forgotten. Through their work with Wendy Carlos, they helped pioneer brand new ways of making music. They gave her the tools she needed to create a true masterpiece. And maybe the most important thing, their story proves that success isn't always about how much you sell. Sometimes it's about the ideas you save, the boundaries you push, and the art you help create. And that's really the story of Muellogix leaves you with. Their technology was amazing, maybe even better than what won. But the world just wasn't ready for it. It makes you wonder, right? How many other brilliant sparks of genius just fizzled out, not because they were bad ideas, but because they were just waiting for the right moment, a moment that never came.